So recently I wrote, directed, and acted in my very first legitimate short film. And in this video I'm going to break down my approach to writing and making the film. If you haven't already watched it, I highly encourage you to do that now. I have a link in the description, or you can click the card in the upper right hand corner of this video. Now it's important that you do this first, or otherwise this video is going to spoil the film for you, and you don't want that. So to prepare to make this film, the obvious first thing was the story. But what did I want to accomplish from this short film? First, I wanted to make something as an exercise in filmmaking, so I wanted to push myself further than usual. The story could be simple, but I always wanted to make sure I created a vibe and had layers to the film. Something that felt complex and not too simple, not like some of my other stuff that I've made on YouTube before where I'm basically just hanging out in my kitchen. I wanted to do something a little extra this time. So first was obviously writing the script. So I used something that I've heard a lot of writers say in the past, and that's to write what you know. So I got a little vulnerable with this, and I wrote down a bunch of things from my personality that create conflict inside of me because I knew I could write from those. And one thing that stood out was loss, specifically loss of my wife. She's my best friend, and losing her would be really heavy for me. So I decided to write from that idea. Losing my wife, and at what lengths would I go to get her back? Really taking it over the top too, not just, being sad because my wife is gone. I wanted to do something, like I said, a little extra. So I thought, well, what would I actually do? I guess I could try to bring her back from the dead. It's like, okay, so I got that part started. But then I wanted to draw from my wife a little bit, her kind of real character, and she really likes plants. And so that kind of gave me the idea of a magical plant seed that could bring her back from the dead. And then there I had my story. I had the little nugget, the seed, if you will, of my story that I can now start writing from. To structure the story, I used Dan Harmon's story circle. Now, there's a lot of different ways to structure your short film, but this is the one that makes the most sense to me. I've seen a lot of other people talk about this online, and when I was kind of researching and learning about writing, and even the stuff that I learned in film school, this is the thing that makes the most sense to me that I'm probably going to keep using in my scripts. And so Dan Harmon's story circle really just allowed me to quickly come up with a guideline for the script. And the script is everything. Once the script is done, you have a blueprint to follow. Yes, I wanted to add my own creative visual elements to the story, but at least we have that backbone coming from the script. And that's something that is essential before going into making a film. You need that structure there to work off of. If you can't just wing it. I mean, I'm sure that you could, but it's not something I want to do. I wanted to have a plan going into this, that way we could execute something awesome. But then once I had the script, I knew I wanted to add a little production value to the story. Make it feel more like a movie, more than just like a regular test short film. Right now, I'm just really like into movies versus films. Does that make sense? I think growing up my whole life, I've always been into films, if you're kind of getting what I'm saying. But right now I'm kind of into movies. I just want to make something that is fun and moody and vibey, and that's not everything, of course. The story comes first, but I did want to add that little extra. So in order to do that, I decided to think of a bunch of movies that I liked and why. The obvious things were Roger Deakins films, of course. You've heard me talk about him probably too much on this channel. And then of course sci-fi films, but what stood out to me was rain. I knew I wanted rain. There's something about a dark, moody rain scene that just makes something feel so cinematic and just so vibey and awesome, and I knew that would really add another layer to my film. But then obviously that means I had to build a rain machine, but we'll save that for another video. This is probably the time to subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, in case you want to see that rain machine video coming up here soon. On top of that, I needed a costume designer. I couldn't just throw green makeup on my wife, who acted in the film alongside me, and move on. I wanted to do it right. So after some quick sketches and research, I was able to come up with a plan, and then I was able to submit that idea to a costume designer who was able to make the plant dress for me, which I think turned out awesome, so thank you, Callie, for that. The next step was reaching out to all my film friends to see who would be down to work with me on the film, which wasn't too hard because making movies is like fun and stuff.
Yeah. I think that's gonna be. It's gonna work.
Okay.
That looks good. I'm gonna do another little.
And then once all that was in order, I started storyboarding. Lots and lots of storyboarding. I knew that if I was going to be acting in the film, that I would have to have a Bible to live by while making it, and that's where the boards came into play. I just sketched basic shots and framing out on my iPad to give us something to always look back to while filming. This came in super handy for us. My wife actually was able to act kind of as our script supervisor and would be looking at the boards and script for us to make sure we didn't forget too many things while filming. Then it was just a matter of ordering a few props, like this cool rain jacket that I bought on Amazon that literally repels no rain at all. But hey, it was $35 and I think it made me look really rad in the rain, so there's that. And of course we needed some lights to make everything look right on screen, which brings me to the sponsor of this video, which is Nanlite. Nanlite was nice enough to send out a few lights for us to use to shoot the film, like this super powerful Forza 500. 500 watts of power in an LED light is amazing when it comes to making a film like this. It's usually so hard to compete with the sun, but as you can see here, we were able to use the Forza 500 in exterior shots to help light. And then it just so happens we were shooting in the rain, so the lightning effects that are built into the Forza 500 were super handy. So if you're in the need for some awesome lights for your next project, check out Nanlite's link in the description. Thank you, Nanlite, for sponsoring this video. And then it's off to actually shooting. But that's really it from the planning perspective. I'm sure there's some other stuff that I did in between, but this is basically what I did to plan the film. Oh, the other thing that is important to remember is to feed your crew. Lots of pizza and a few beers to keep everyone happy. I wanted to take this film seriously, but also making movies are supposed to be fun, so I made sure we did have a little fun along the way. Well, stay tuned for more behind the scenes of the short film. I'll be breaking down the cinematography of the film, I'll talk about the sound and the music, and probably even talk about the color grading a little bit, because a lot of people seem to like that. So subscribe and keep your eyes peeled for those coming up soon. And as always, until next time guys, I'm Spencer Sakurai. See ya.